Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Lodgify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.
Good Morning Outdoors, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the outdoor hospitality industry. From campgrounds and RV parks to glamping, outdoor resorts, adventure travel, and ecotourism. We'll be discussing all things outdoor travel and hospitality, so join us on Good Morning Outdoors every Thursday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning.
Hey, Alex. Good morning. How are you?
You know, I'm doing great. It's man, the rain has not stopped, at least here in the Midwest, but starting to feel like summer a little bit. We got through Memorial Day. We're like finally deep into the camping season. I always feel that way when we get to June. So couldn't be more excited about this summer.
Love it. It's been hot here. I guess we probably have some rain coming our way. Yeah, it was like almost 90 degrees yesterday. What is it now? It's getting into that 80s territory already. So
that's it. It's the camping weather, man.
Yeah.
That's what people like to see, and great weather to get outdoors a little bit.
Sure is.
And Matt, I know, speaking of your property, Covered Bridge in the Catskills, we've talked, in bits and pieces about this property over the several weeks in which we've done Good Morning Outdoors. But maybe we'll give you a little bit of time here just to give some updates on some projects that are happening there, some things that are really developing, and really just kind of give you a chance to lay out some partners who have been engaged and just what the next path really looks like for this property. So I'll give the floor to you just to start on this before we dive into the news today.
Yeah, we're still super early stages with everything, but we've secured some funding, and we're starting to kind of build out the project team. And so this is a rustic campground that's been operating since the 60s in a beautiful little town in the Catskills called Livingston Manor. It's called Covered Bridge Campsite. And it's rustic, not much in the way of amenities or really infrastructure. It is old school camping, similar to like what we talked about last week with Jeremy Johnson's campground in Michigan. It is really about return to nature. It's wild country, it's wildlife, and it's not much grass. It's all forested. It's a famous fly fishing creek. So it's really old school, primitive, rustic, wild camping. And I got involved with this place 4 years ago, and it was sort of a half-baked vision. Since it was an operating campground, the plan was to operate it as a campground until we could figure out how to reimagine it. And it will always be a campground. This isn't really like a total redevelopment per se, but it's going to be adding different camping lodging options, tents and RVIA, cabins on wheels potentially. So we're really entering the master planning phase. We have a loose concept of up to 35 cabins on wheels, up to 20 glamping tents, and we're going to approach this in a phased fashion, keep it operating throughout. So it's going to have to be very calculated and deliberate, and doing a lot of work in the shoulder seasons and as much as we can get done in the off season, which is tough in the mountains in the winter, but we'll do our best. So, we're going to, over the next 3 to 4 years, we're going to phase in those up to 35 cabins, up to 20 glamping tents. We're starting with 6 glamping tents in a couple weeks. We've been really dialing up the marketing. So we engaged a marketing agency. We have engaged a project manager and development advisor, and we're making very, very shortly, we've selected our architect and landscape architect. So we're going to be making those engagements. And a fun one here is we are, and we'll have more on this in the future, but we are engaging a decently well-known art director and concept illustrator from several Hollywood movies. So we're going to be bringing a flavor of that into the park, which we'll definitely share more.
Yeah, I think we just piqued everybody's interest a lot here when you said that. And Matt, it goes to show too the amount of sometimes unexpected people on your team that you need to kind of put it all together to make the project actually come to fruition. I mean, if you would have asked or told somebody when you were starting this project that you would have a, well-known Hollywood, movie director on a part of the team for the campground, they probably would have looked at you and said you were a little bit crazy. But just goes to show if you want to make a cool concept and you want to do some of these things, man, a great team is really key to that.
Yeah, well said. And, I think some people still might say that's crazy, and I can see where they're coming from, but
just wait to see the concept.
Yeah, it's in a world, there's so many great concepts out there, and there's so many great concepts in the Catskills, but I think if I've learned anything from the people I've been following and studying in this industry that have had success, it's to be unique and be different and to really lean into the differentiation, right? And there's just so many kind of like modern, minimalistic like cabin designs out there that to me it's cool. I love that.
It's very similar in a given area, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of oversaturation of a particular style or concept.
Right.
Which proves could be demand for it, but it also could prove again oversaturation.
Right.
Everything's the same. You're kind of getting into a price battle at the end of the day if all of the units look the same. And this is a way to really stand out, and nobody else is going to have that type of person and this type of concept in the market.
Right. And we're also working to engage a cabin manufacturer to come up with some custom designs. To me, that's important, is to have cabins and designs that are unique and exclusive to the property. That being said, we're not going to go crazy with like the luxury, the cost. They're going to be very comfortable on the inside, but the star with our property is the natural environment. So, we're going to lean into that and accentuate that and give people a comfortable place to hang their head and go to sleep, but promote them going outside and not just sitting inside the cabin during the day. So it's fun. It's exciting. It's going to be a long road. We're just kind of starting the marathon, but happy to share, as we make progress and move, from step to step. It'd probably be a 2 to 3 month master planning phase where we come up with, we have our budget, we have a development budget, but that's all kind of premature when you haven't done the master planning and come up with at least that initial design and the really fully baked concept. Like right now we have a loose general concept, but that needs to be refined in a big way. So that's what we're setting out to do over the next season, or really few months, the remainder of the season, while also promoting fun events and, not losing sight of the business that we're currently operating, which is really going to be the challenge to, juggle all that. And that's why we're building out such a big team to do so.
Well, Matt, sounds like many more announcements to come with this project moving forward. Obviously, this has been a labor of love of yours for several seasons, and finally going to take shape with a really cool development here. So really excited for you to get to talk more about this, and I'm sure we'll have much more plans to share on Covered Bridge and how everything comes together moving forward. A couple of other housekeeping items before we dive into the news today. Just wanted to highlight a couple of cool events and holidays happening in the RV industry. Firstly, National Go RVing Day. This has been, I think this is now 4 years consecutively that they've put this on. Go RVing puts on this sort of event and national holiday the second Saturday of June this year, June 14. Really is the day for folks to celebrate getting outdoors and getting in your RV. And they put together a great little marketing toolkit here with the logo and all of the promotional elements for social media, and would highly, encourage anyone who has any involvement with the RV space, participate in this holiday. This is a really great marketing and PR opportunity. We get national news attention for our industry in the outdoors because of events like this. So really great. If you're somebody who cares a lot about this, would highly encourage you to participate in the media, support, amplify a lot of this media that Go RVing is putting out there. This is a really great holiday, and obviously well-timed, being right in the thick of camping season. It gets folks who might, be the casual RVer to really reconsider booking that extra trip or getting the RV out and hitting the road, which is exactly what we want in this industry.
Yeah, well said. I think it's strategically scheduled, and
right.
We see it in the seasonal businesses. There's a huge rush to get in and open your seasonal site, or you're a transient camper that's been itching to get out for either early May or Memorial Day. And then there's kind of a lull until the 4th of July. So this is kind of right in between to
everybody should be off of school by then, which is nice. It's just a very it's a good date. Whoever initially came up with the selection, they did a really nice job in picking this as National Go RVing Day. Yeah.
It keeps some solid momentum from Memorial Day through July 4th.
Exactly. And then speaking of the other event happening on more of the advocacy side of the RV industry, RVs Move America Week is also happening currently in Washington, D.C. This is an event that RVIA and the RV Dealer Association and really all of the, advocacy organizations for the RV industry put on in DC. It's always been kind of the week of lobbying and having the meetings with the people who really are supporters of the RV industry, or lobbying people for support for the industry. I was really happy to see Jason Smith, chair of the House Ways and Means Committee, decided to participate in these and host a fireside chat with folks in the RV industry. Not an announcement that was expected prior to this week. So really good to see people in key positions like Representative Smith participating with the RV industry in such a big way. And I think, Matt, this is also well timed with everything kind of going on right now, budgetary and otherwise, happening in Washington, D.C. Again, RV Move America Week is usually always around this kind of same time every year. And this is just, with all of the things happening with the current administration, I think it's well timed for them to be in Washington and put their voice into the equation as well.
Well said.
And most people will remember, if you remember anything from RVs Move America Week from years past, that kind of famous photo of like Mike Pence in a motorhome on the White House lawn. Yeah, that's a kind of a hallmark of an event like this, and really cool to see a lot of units from manufacturers like Thor, Winnebago, Forest River making their way to Washington, D.C. You get some great photos. I think both President Trump and Vice President Pence have both been in RVs in Washington before. So just a really cool event and a really great advocacy week for our industry. So wanted to highlight that and the great work that RVIA does in Washington every year. With that, Matt, I think let's dive into some stories today. We're kind of going to stay on the kind of Washington, D.C. side of things with our first one. This is, again, kind of a theme, as we've said we'd be talking about it a lot. We're back talking about it again. News story this week came out in Woodall's talking about the proposed budget under the Trump administration, cutting around 5,500 National Park Service workers in the 2026 budget proposal. Really highlighting here that look, this is obviously still in the proposal phase. It's been mentioned that this is something that, likely will not probably reach this full number as far as the number of workers actually being cut. And I think there's a proposed about $1 billion cut to the budget as well, from about $3 billion down to about $2 billion. I don't know. This is always a starting point for sort of negotiations. And obviously one side puts everything kind of in their wish list. It's likely not all going to happen. But Matt, I guess, what does this sort of tell you about kind of where things may end up? It seems like cuts of some sort are coming. Not that that's probably new news to anybody based on all of the news that we've shared over several weeks. But What does this kind of tell you now that we have at least some real numbers and some data to finally look at and say, this is the proposal and this is maybe what we can expect moving forward?
I think it's a lot of kind of smoke, honestly, at this point. We have such a long way to go for this to be finalized, and it's just so unlikely that anything even remotely close to this does get finalized. I honestly, my takeaway was some learnings. I was surprised that the number of employees at the National Park Service is only like less than 14,000. So this 5,500 job cut would be like a 40% cut, which I think most people would tell you that they think the national parks are already understaffed.
Well, there was commentary in the article as well from places like Yosemite saying like, we cannot even pick up the trash here and fulfill basic guest services at current levels because of job openings, because of lack of supervisors, because of a host of other employment issues. And I mean, look, there's I would classify a lot of these National Park Service jobs as probably more entry-level positions or probably what's open, especially when the pay rate may not be commensurate with other opportunities. There's so many entry-level jobs available in the job market right now. It's not as though the economy is hurting for those type of positions. Like, So as you said, if they can't even fulfill basic services now, I really don't see how they're going to do much better or be more efficient with less staff moving forward.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I will say though, if this does happen, then those national park and land sell-offs might become more of a reality just because they won't be sustainable to run them. So I don't know. Could be a domino.
Right.
I definitely.
Yeah.
I was just say before we move on, I want to give a shout out to our GMH.
Oh yes, we missed this a little bit in the intro. Yeah. Let's talk about Ben and Steve's project here for a minute.
Yeah. So congrats to Steve Tauck, who's on the GMH Good Morning Hospitality Hotels show. And they announced a super exciting project called RVIA in South Florida, about 45 minutes.
Ben always comes up with the best names. He's always super creative, and I love this one.
Yeah, it's an art for sure. So what can we say about this? It is not going to be a huge resort. It's going to be, how many rooms was it? It was...
And I would say for Ben as well, this project is kind of in a different location than probably some of the other ones that he's run. Obviously, Ben has experience doing marketing and assisting operators across the country. But for him to be a part of the operating team, I think that the kind of Florida market is probably a new venture for him in this way.
Yeah. So 20 units. They've really put together quite a cast of all-stars on this team. Looks like the units are coming from EJH Distribution, which if you've shopped for modular or prefabricated units, chances are you spoke with the team over there. So congrats to them. And Ben has obviously made a name for himself in this industry. Steve as well, long time hospitality pro with tons of great experience. Have to assume that they're going to do something special here. It looks like they're planning to open by the end of 2026. And really cool concept here that we've talked about in prior shows is the agritourism aspect. This is a 25-acre operating fruit farm. So that's going to be incorporated into the operation and continue, it sounds like, and be a big part of the identity of the place.
And I think that really fits Florida too, as you think about citrus and fruit and just a very like tropical, cool environment. I love that the units are going to be kind of tucked amongst this. And I'm sure, very similar principles to builds that Ben has done in the past, where they're not going to overcrowd it. They're going to make this super unique, a super high end property. Just stick to all of the great principles of builds that he's done in the past, but really just kind of go into Steve's backyard, into the Florida market, and build a really incredible property there. So I think this really, as you said, does sound like a nice team and a nice pairing together, and super excited to see the property kind of come together. I'm sure this is something they've talked about for a while, and finally cool to see the introduction of this project here this past week.
Maybe we can get Steve and or Ben on the show in the next couple weeks, because they'll certainly be able to speak to it a little bit more eloquently than we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking
Congrats,
of yes, and absolutely, congrats again to Steve and Ben. Speaking of kind of another kind of new announcement from a company, Matt, I have not really heard of prior to kind of researching them for the show this week. I think it's pronounced Tauck, Tauck, for those listening who can't see the screen. They are really kind of an independent tour operator of kind of high-end experiences and that kind of thing. They announced they're going to be offering glamping out in the American West starting in 2026. One of my takeaways, Matt, that I kind of got from this was glamping's kind of made it into the high-end tour and accommodation market. When you start seeing folks like Tauck and the independent tour people say, this is really what our customers want, or at least the American West especially is becoming quite known for great glamping and great locations close to national parks and out in great spots. That was one of the key things that I kind of gathered from this, was like, all right, this makes a lot of sense for them. It makes a lot of sense for those high-end customers. And it's great to see glamping kind of getting its day and time within high-end luxury experiences. Matt, what else did you kind of take from this as far as this announcement and them kind of adding this? They've got, 5-star hotels on one hand for some destinations and locations, and then them kind of saying, yeah, glamping really fits right in with that. What else did you kind of gather from this announcement from them?
Yeah, they're partnering with it sounds like they're partnering with the lodging providers. They're not actually like developing their own lodging.
Correct. That's a great clarification.
Until I dove deeper, it read to me like maybe they were developing their own glamping, but that is not the case. Doesn't appear to be. They're partnering with Under Canvas at their, is it pronounced Ulum or Ulum? They're like ultra luxury Under Canvas and Moab. It's kind of like a separate brand within the brand. So they're partnering with different operators. I found it interesting in that, like, as an operator myself, always seeking out these tour operators, and this sounds like maybe this came from the tour operator first, and the tour operator was seeking out a lodging partner. Who knows? We don't have the insider knowledge, but to me that was interesting, in that maybe there is kind of an evolution of the market here, in that there's a lot of buzz around glamping and outdoor lodging, that one of these really reputable tour providers decided, I need to create itineraries around these amazing locations. So it shows that, conventional wisdom says build and develop the location around the demand, but this may show us a little bit of the developing an awesome location, creating the demand, and bringing on partners. So maybe a little bit of a two-way street being developed in our market, which is awesome.
Yeah, and I think exactly. I think it's well said, and I think finally kind of seeing the demand come to fruition. We kind of have talked about, when is kind of glamping going to get its golden moment? At least it's been kind of proposed or discussed a lot in our industry. And I think if more providers like Tauck and others kind of make more of a statement with doing things like this, I think that ultimately will cement glamping right alongside traditional hospitality. And it's kind of finally rising up the ranks as something that consumers are looking for, and going to people and really saying, this is what I want to do. This is the type of outdoor experience I'm looking for. I think that's just a really great thing for our industry overall. And circling back to sort of another project, Matt, that we talked about, I think this was last week or the week before. Man, it's
A couple weeks ago, I think.
hard to keep all these weeks straight.
Yeah.
In my mind, but we talked about the Wilds property for folks who caught us a couple of episodes ago, and we are back with a little bit of an update, an announcement from them. They have just recently had the ribbon cutting on their new campground, Hellbender. At the Wilds. I've got sort of an image of the map for those who are listening and watching via video. You can really see how the really expansive 75 acres that they have for this property, how it sits. And I think that even if you look at really the lodging mix and how it's all kind of come together, I think, Matt, it's laid out quite nicely. I would say it's a little barren as far as additional amenities go, but I would say that's kind of to be expected at this point. One being just that they're trying to launch and get open. I was really kind of hoping and expecting for more of that sort of safari animal experiential part of this, and kind of hoping that would come to more of a fruition actually in the campground itself, rather than kind of being this 1-2 punch of having the campground and then also having the just the Wilds property where they have the animal sanctuary and do the animal care and that kind of thing. It's got a basketball court, pickleball. Like there is some great amenities on this property as it sits currently. But man, that was really the thing that I hope that they continue to develop moving forward, is just bring that full circle. You guys have such a great location as it is to be a campground in conjunction to an animal park. Like just make that kind of come full circle back to the park. Like I want to wake up and see an animal. I want to like have that be a part of my camping experience. And I think if they can really nail that, that'll really help cement the experiential nature of that property, and something that I think will make it great in an area of Ohio that otherwise would have lacked it. Speaking of cool concepts, I think that might be the theme of this week's show, as we've talked about several between yours and Ben and Steve's project, and then obviously the Hellbender project in Ohio. Like this would be a really incredible concept just within the campground if they get it right. Matt, I mean, what do you see with this campground announcement, and do you have similar feelings about kind of that experiential nature of the concept at all?
Yeah, I think they have such an awesome experience that this is right next door. It's not, there isn't anything directly incorporated into the campground, but I assume, there's going to be more guests that are booking the experience plus some camping than not. So I like, they have the basketball court, pickleball, sand volleyball courts, definitely a focus on sports and active recreation, which is great.
Right.
I like the layout. It's not an RV parking lot. It is a I think a well-designed, you've got, I was kind of the, I love this concept of like, if you look at like sites 2, 4, 6, 8, the ones that are loops, I'm a big fan of that design. It gives you all the benefits of a pull through, but it gives you privacy.
Exactly.
So I think it's really smart. You can't cram the sites in doing that, but obviously that's not what they were setting out to do here. So
right. I think it's only about 73 odd sites that they launched with, about 47 full service RV sites, which in, a campground, that's we'd consider that small at 47, and then 26 of those being primitive tent sites. So yeah, I definitely do not think they overbuilt at all. I think that was very smart, as you said, really keeping the outdoor nature of the property, I think was really smart. If they were come in there and made it a parking lot and jammed in as many as they could, that wouldn't have been the experience I think that they were going for. So as you said, really, really nice to see that they kept things like the hiking trails and trying to get people outdoors and active. Like that's the type of experience that they really needed to deliver with that property.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to plan a trip out there with my my rooftop tent.
Hey, there we go. Love it. Our next story, we're going to talk a little bit about the Family RV Association, we've talked a little bit about, Matt, several kind of RV clubs and groups. I think we've mentioned escapees at some point on the show, but there are several, really great, well-known RV travel clubs that really all work in a very similar vein. It's essentially a membership model where, RVers pay money. It's usually a yearly fee of some kind to be a part of the group for a set number of benefits that you can derive from being a part of that membership. The Family RV Association has around, I think it's a little bit over 100,000 members in total. And they recently announced a partnership with RV Overnights, which has some really interesting and unique accommodations, farms, wineries, breweries, that sort of thing. Matt, what I really kind of drew from this, I saw this sort of press release and announcement in Woodall's, and I kind of immediately thought of Harvest Toast and Escapees in a very, very similar kind of arrangement. Obviously, we know Joel Holland well, and Harvest Toast actually owns Escapees outright.
Sure.
But Harvest Toast provides much of the same type of booking experience as RV Overnights, and obviously Escapees and the FMCA, also being RV clubs, operate very similarly. So I think it's really interesting and probably smartly positioned that they would kind of cement a partnership of their own, being that if Escapees has all of this additional benefit from being part of the Harvest Host network, the Family RV Association probably needed something similar to keep pace, not lose membership. And that may be a little bit of where this announcement's coming from. Matt, did you draw kind of a similar conclusion of kind of seeing this kind of form, or what did you make of this kind of announcement?
It's interesting in that, I think it's a move to, a strategic move to I think they're newer to the market. They're younger than Harvest Hosts. So they're trying to compete and keep up. But I think it's great. I mean, it's something I'm a member. I'm a Harvest Host member, and now I'm gonna have to go look at this to see. And honestly, I've been looking at it for like local stays, right? Like I've got a couple really cool breweries that are within a half-hour drive that if I go have a couple beers, I'm not going to want to drive home. So I'm like, okay.
Right.
The struggle though is that they are so all geared towards RVs, and I'm not an RVer anymore. I'm a tenter. So I'm like trying to like figure out, am I even welcome as a rooftop tenter? I think in a lot of cases, no, because they're not providing bathroom facilities. So it's interesting. Like Harvest Hosts bought Boondockers Welcome as well, right?
Correct. Yep.
Maybe that's going to be more my speed. But again, probably not all of them, because the idea is that you're bringing an RV that has a bathroom. So I'm excited to dig in here. I'm gonna sign up for a membership and see how it goes. I mean, it is very obviously marketed towards RVers. I'm excited to see how they differentiate themselves from a Harvest Hosts, right? I don't think there are any other really players in this market, are there?
Not as consolidated as this. I mean, even I'm not quite sure of what the inventory count is for RV Overnights, like how many properties they actually have listed on the platform. They list kind of about 14 different kind of host categories, from the things like farms, wineries, barbecue spots, breweries. Like there's a lot of different options. And I think that also speaks to the fact that a lot of people that are in RV clubs like the FRVA are looking for other options apart from the traditional camping options. Like members want more of these unique, cool experiences at different places that they haven't been in the past. And I think whether they use these type of spots often or infrequently, as a lot of people do, kind of in between spots on their journey, right? They're doing that big cross-country trip that they planned their whole life, and you're using a place like RV Overnights or Harvest Host to sort of supplement the journey. I think it's a great part of the RV journey for a lot of people now. And I think it's nice to see the RV lifestyle expanding into other places like this. There's always sort of a discussion that I see unfold when we talk about our site nights away from campgrounds, and whether it's something that, is really eating into the camping inventory. And I would say, like, no, most people are not staying with no bathroom hookup at any of these other places, like a winery, like a brewery, like whatever journey. So I think that that's something to kind of make note of this, but really cool to see these RV clubs in different people kind of bringing this into the collective offering that they offer their membership.
Yeah, I think it's a great evolution of kind of the industry and the market, right? We don't have a ton of supply of RV parks. There's a lot of RVers. There's way more RVs than RV sites in general.
And I would add the caveat to this, Matt: high quality RV sites and RV parks, like in the locations that people want, right? Like there could be a lot of destination parks or places where like it's been slow and it's been hard for that RV park to survive. And there are other spots, as we've highlighted continuously, near national parks or along the highways and journeys to other places where RV park inventory is really low or nothing. And places like RV Overnights or Hover's Host really help fill that gap.
Yeah, they really do.
And we just kind of talked about sort of the non-traditional side of the RV industry. We're kind of going to switch back and go to the namesake, the traditional RV park player here for our next story. Of course, being KOA in Campgrounds of America. They announced this week their system called K2. It's their own kind of in-house built reservation platform that they announced add-ons and really a bolster to ancillary revenue. Which, kind of for starters, Matt, to start our discussion on this story, kind of surprised that KOA didn't already have this in place, honestly. Obviously ancillary revenue is a big part of the campground business and has been in place since camping existed. Buying an extra, bundle of firewood or filling up your propane, getting ice, like the most basic travel conveniences have always been a part of the camping experience. But I was surprised to hear that KOA did not really allow these add-ons to get really purchased and redeemed prior to arrival or at the time of check-in. And that was something that, they highlighted a couple numbers in the story on how it's driving revenue, but honestly was a little bit surprised that they hadn't offered this sooner.
So I don't want to offend anyone here, but I think it's a function of how the franchise agreement works, in that, and it also this was something that was very eye-opening to me early on looking at KOAs that were for sale. I would see that some of them were more convenience stores plus a campground, where over 50% of the gross revenue came from those ancillary revenue streams, primarily the store or, food and beverage, or like, I don't know, some of them sell beer or whatever. And that's because the franchise royalties only apply to the site revenue. So indirectly, some KOA franchisee operators probably evidently take that as incentivization to go ahead and maximize the revenue that does not have royalties on it. So, I think this was probably, I think it's a good faith move by KOA, the franchisor, to give their franchisees a more immediate boost and like more streamlined, tech-enabled way to drive that revenue right from the get-go. So I think it's good. It makes a lot of sense. I understand probably why it wasn't, I'm not saying they were avoiding it by any means, but why it perhaps was not on the top of their priority list. With 500 campgrounds and hundreds of franchisees to work with and try to appease and make happy. You've certainly got a laundry list of to-dos, and they finally got around to this one. So that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously I think, this ancillary revenue component, KOA or not, and not having a, royalty or franchise fee kind of attached to it, this to me has been the thing that has gotten a lot of sort of attention recently, because I think it is the part that the operator can control more than you might be able to control other things, right? And I think we've seen that just getting people into the property at even a lower ADR or a lower rate than you might otherwise have planned for or would want, allows you to still drive ancillary revenue on the back end if you do it right, and you have things like this sort of automatic deployment and letting the customer make that decision when they book, right? Have them prepay for that firewood, have them, get the s'mores kit or the pre-purchase food and other things that are available. Like capturing them at the point of purchase, I think has become, far more important than, let's say, it was even 5 or 10 years ago. And nice to see KOA continuing to kind of lead in this regard. Other reservation systems in the market have obviously had this feature for a while, but really nice to see them provide it for their franchisees and for the camping consumer too. I think just collectively as an industry, if we get the camping and outdoor consumer used to purchasing their ancillary revenue items in advance and at the time of purchase, I think that helps all campgrounds, because it means our campers are spending more at our properties, they're spending more in our communities, and ultimately that's just better for our industry as a whole. So really, really cool to see KOA kind of dive into ancillary revenue in that way. And Matt, to kind of round things out, as everybody knows at this point, I'm a data guy. We like to close the show with data a lot of times. This one was really interesting, though, to me this week. I included the June 2025 RV Science quarterly forecast from RVIA, really talking about 2025 wholesale shipments. We've talked through some of these numbers as we've kind of gone month by month to start the beginning of the year. We're obviously now, solidly into Q2, into June, into the thick of the year, obviously halfway through the year as it stands. And Craig Kirby had some commentary along with some data in this forecast where they actually they revised down the numbers that they were initially kind of forecasting for this year. Really kind of just having a slight increase of about 1% from 2024 wholesale shipments to 2025. And I think Craig Kirby cited a few reasons as to why, highlighting the tariffs, a little bit of softening kind of consumer demand because of that, people not wanting to maybe take on new debt or, for the purchase of an RV or things like that. Really, really interesting as far as just consumer spending, borrowing costs, tariffs were really what he cited in this to kind of revise things down. Matt, does this kind of give you any pause? Do you think that this was, I would honestly say this is probably the right move to kind of do this now rather than like having a sort of high forecast? We get to the end of the year, everybody's super disappointed, especially if the tariffs do remain and kind of continue. To me, this is a little bit of RVIA kind of saving face and kind of saying, yeah, like we're just going to revise down. And that way, if like we do beat it or tariffs like do go away, we can claim that it was, we beat the forecast and it was a better year. Like that's a little bit of how I look at it. Obviously these kind of what Craig Kirby's citing is very real, of the tariffs, the borrowing cost, and consumer spending. I think those are very real concerns, but I think the way in which they did this, I think, was more of a little bit trying to save face and provide a better forecast for them for this year. What do you say about this, Matt?
So I think the term you're looking for is sandbagging.
There you go.
And I have a few old sales managers that I became very familiar with that term during our sales pipeline meetings, where maybe a salesperson was making a deal sound like it was harder to close than it really was, or that it wasn't as far along as it was, so that you're setting expectations lower. during your forecast, and then you're setting yourself up to exceed expectations, which I think there could be some of that. I mean, I do think there is real kind of apprehension and uncertainty.
Right. I think the concerns
market.
are real. They probably should have been more conservative with the forecasts to begin with, but obviously RVIA is, in the business of trying to show great numbers and a booming industry to, continue to fight for the industry. So I understand there's a game. Obviously they're in the business of lobbying and trying to put out this data to instill confidence in our industry, but that they should have been more conservative in my view.
And something I'm always reminding myself here when I'm reading this data is the distinction between wholesale shipments and retail shipments and sales, because, and I'd love to get, if there's any RV dealers out there listening, come on the show. We'd love to interview you and get an understanding for this business.
Or even we'll have to see if Phil and Grazia can come on and do
that'd be awesome
with us. That'd be great.
One of my favorite follows on X or Twitter is Car Dealership Guy, and he just gives really good insight and a peek behind the curtain into the car dealership world. And I feel like we need that for the RV dealership world, because you hear these stats and then you drive down the highway and you drive by a Camping World and there's 400 RVs, stacked up.
Lots are always full in the RV.
Right. And it's like, I want to know how many of those are spoken for, how many of those are just sitting there waiting to get delivered, how many are sold, how long have they been sitting there? Because you hear these stories and then you see something perhaps in person at an RV dealer that doesn't line up, or just to an uneducated person looks like it might not add up, which I think I would qualify myself as an uneducated person in the world of RV dealerships. But yeah, I mean, there is certainly uncertainty and some things happening that create that uncertainty and apprehension. And I mean, but that being said, it is a pretty right to say, hey, we're up 11% year to date, but we're forecasting a flat year. That's quite a change in momentum. So I don't know.
Right. And I would add as well, a problem that, dealers have been experiencing over the last several years is just not having the right inventory. Talked a lot about the discounts of, being, now that it's 2025, 2024, 2023 model units that, just like you do at a car dealership or there is the wrong inventory on lots a lot of times. And obviously with this data, we're talking about new units being produced in 2025 that are going to be wholesale shipped to the RV dealers themselves. So this is, I think, more numbers as it relates to kind of what the manufacturers are seeing as far as their ability to produce, to sell to dealers. And then, the dealers then not buying on the back end, really saying, look, we don't think we're going to be able to sell on the retail market, with the same pace and timing as we might have otherwise thought we would have from the beginning of the year. So really, as you said, really interesting to see the momentum switch. I thought this was definitely a piece of data that is sort of interesting to keep a watch on. And obviously, as us in the lodging side of the camping and outdoor space will continue to keep tabs on how consumer booking behavior is looking. If consumers are continuing to camp, upgrade their units, it's always a conversation this time of year as to what's actually going to happen, both in the wholesale market and then ultimately in the retail and consumer travel markets as well.
Nice.
And Matt, this
is a record time for us, going on 50 minutes here.
I know we if this is not the show, if you don't want to hear us talk and ramble on things, I would say we're probably the longest segment out of our rotation here at GMH. But as a reminder, make sure to catch the other shows happening at Good Morning Hospitality. I know a couple days ago, I think on Monday, there was a great episode talking about Vrbo, Expedia, Hyatt's new brand, Wander from the team here. So definitely check that out if you missed that. Really great. If you really want to get a look at the traditional hospitality market, they've got the best show around to keep you informed with all of that great news. And if you want to join our community here at GMO, we've got a link here on the screen, our goodmorningoutdoors.card with 2 R's.co. And it'll also be linked in the show notes if you'd like to join our community to get really updates, announcements, Matt, as we continue to announce more things. We're really going to use the audience and community here as really a launching point if you want to get connected with everything that we've got within the outdoor industry. This is the place you've got to go to sign up. It's free. We'd love for you to join it and be a part of us. We'll have some new announcements hopefully coming out soon over the next several weeks and months, and really appreciate everybody for listening and tuning in today and giving us your Thursday morning. Matt, anything else before we wrap up?
That's it.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Hope you have a great week, and we will see you back here next Thursday for another great show here on GMO.
Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Logify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.